I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers, where we see a lot of attention for helping people in need throughout our community in many different ways. And as we're recording this program, we're coming up on what's been called the Super Bowl food drive for Crossline churches, but it's an effort that continues year-round. And today we're visiting with representatives from Crosslines to find out about what's happening not only with that, but year-round. I'd like to introduce Rikki Smith and Kathy Lewis. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
The Crosslines, you've been here since the early 1980s, serving the community, and you've had a lot of history in Joplin, but perhaps people might be watching and just say, well, how do you define what is Crosslines? Kathy, as director, if someone walks up to you and say, what is Crosslines? How do you explain that to them?
Well, Crosslines is a coalition of churches. It started in 1982 with 10 of the downtown churches in Joplin. We are now 62 churches strong from Joplin, Carl Junction, and Webb City. About 33 of those churches bring groups to Crosslines one day a month to serve our clients. They volunteer in our food pantry, at our front desk, and then in our donations room, sorting through our donations.
Right, so you provide services. We'll go into detail later, but so briefly the services you provide for those clients.
We have a clothing bank, we have an emergency food pantry, and we also distribute government food commodities to all of western Jasper County. We distribute rent and utility assistance, and then we also have housewares and baby items, hygiene things. So there's a lot of services we provide.
A lot of services. And Rikki, as assistant, you know that it takes a lot of people to make this happen. She mentioned the numbers of churches, but a lot of people involved in these efforts.
Yeah, we estimate that we have about 250 or so volunteers active right now.
And helping you out along those lines.
For sure.
As I started the program, I mentioned the Super Bowl program, which you've had for a number of years. Do you remember when it started or how it began? It's been a number of years since you've been doing the food drive at the Super Bowl.
It started before my time, and I've been volunteering since the mid-90s, and we were doing it back then, but it's been a long time, I know, that we've been doing it.
So the churches then have a concerted effort, basically, during the Super Bowl food drive for you.
During the Super Bowl, what we ask is that while we're all celebrating and having a good time, we take a minute to remember those who don't have a can of soup. The national organization started 25 years ago, and so the donations that come into our facility for Super Bowl are then reported to the national organization, so that we're part of something bigger as well.
So nationwide, people are pausing at this time to help others. So as we're speaking, people are collecting those items, and you'll be receiving those and have that to add to your pantry to help others. Something else we heard about recently, a dining out program that benefited Crosslines. Explain that, how that worked out.
Yes, Jomo Restaurant Week. 20 of the locally owned restaurants here in Joplin got together, and for a week they accepted donations for our emergency food pantry, and then they also gave the customers that came in an incentive. If they brought in the non-perishables, they'd get a discount. They also were put into a drawing to receive 20 different gift cards from each one of the restaurants. And through that food drive, they raised over 2,600 pounds of food for Crosslines and over $200. So we were thrilled for all who were involved in that.
So the restaurants really supporting, and then their patrons, obviously the people who are going to those restaurants, supporting your efforts.
Yes, and the gal, her name is Erin. She is with Ben E. Foods, and she is going to try and have one of those every fall and then in the winter after the first of the year.
Great. So continuing with those efforts. As we mentioned, you have a lot of people who work behind the scenes, make things happen at Crosslines. One of our students actually had a chance to go out and visit your facility and visit with some of your volunteers and kind of behind the scenes look. So instead of continuing to talk, I think we'll take a pause and let our viewers see what's happening at Crosslines. So if we have that package, let's take a look at what's happening at Crosslines.
Crosslines Churches of Joplin organization has always been notorious at helping local families in need of assistance with their daily living, and the labor of love has no plans to stop anytime soon.
What would you say would be the motto of Crosslines, the official motto? Would you know?
Love. That would be what we do here. We show our love towards the people that are coming in.
The local organization was started in March of 1982, and just short of 2 years later, the group moved into their current building, located in Joplin at 131 South High Street. Since the opening of the organization, the building has endured 3 expansion projects that included adding more space for clothing items, as well as a food pantry containing all the necessary food items. And 33 years after opening their current location, the organization is packing up and moving from their 6,000 square foot building on High Street to their new 10,000 square foot building located in Joplin at 320 South School Avenue. And assisting with the move is Nikki Curran, a Crosslines member for 15 years. She states that getting everything prepared for the move is a key component when it comes time to leave the old building.
Just trying to get summer winter separated and get it all hung and just get it ready to move, getting it all packed up.
The organization is supported by over 60 local churches in the Joplin area and relies heavily on volunteers from across the community. During a normal day at the shop, volunteers spend their spare time assisting the organization with sorting out clothes or food items in the pantry.
This is all we do, is we make sure the clothes are hung up in the right sections, and the pantry has the food coming in, and the food is put in the certain sections so the people that work in the back pantry can put things in the bags that people need.
Volunteers observe plenty of mixed emotions from people they help out.
The major emotion is thanking us. So happy that we are here to help them, give them the things that they need.
For more information about Crosslines and their services, you can call the number at 417-782-8384, or you can visit their website. That's www.crosslinesjoplin.org. Reporting in Joplin, this is Ryan Land, KGCS Channel 22.
And I'd like to thank Ryan for that story and kind of giving the viewers a chance to see on location what you do. And just looking at what you have there, there are a lot of different needs that you're serving through your services.
Right, we have the clothing bank, obviously, helping people out with clothes, but also we have some small household items that we have in our back room, and those are available to clients who need them. One of the programs that I'm particularly passionate about is the babies and women's programs, some things that we can do to help out with the littlest, tiniest people in our community. That is a great service we can provide.
Now, Kathy, you have set hours of operation when people come in for the items? Yeah.
Yes, we're open from Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we're closed all of the state holidays, but otherwise we're there.
Great, so you're there to help out. Now, let's talk in general terms about how people come to you. What leads them to Crosslines?
Well, we have a lot of referral partners. All of our churches can refer people to Crosslines, and then we work with the hospitals, the hospice agencies, Ozark Center, Red Cross, Salvation Army. All of them can refer people that are hungry or needing clothing to Crosslines, and then we refer back and forth to other agencies. We don't have a ministry where we distribute large appliances or furniture, so we refer them on to another agency in town that helps with those items.
So it's vital to have this communication between different organizations. If somebody has a need for food, they may have needs for other services as well.
Yeah, that's right. And like Kathy said, some of the items that we don't have the room to store, or we don't have that opportunity at our facility, we make friends with and work with other agencies in town to make sure that people's needs get met.
Right. Now, do you find a lot of people that are just in emergency situations where they're needing help, they come to you?
Oh yeah, sometimes we'll have a family in crisis where maybe they've had children brought to the home, and sometimes have with a family member, and those kiddos need some extra help, and they might arrive someplace with nothing, and they'll need clothes for the kids, or bedding, or other things. And so those are some of the crisis, fires and all kinds of things that happen to families that we can help get them through that situation.
So family life is disrupted, they can come to you and receive these things. You mentioned the household items, so you mentioned if someone loses their home in a fire, you can help them with the pots and pans and things they may have lost.
Get them back up on their feet a little bit, yeah.
And helping them. What about the clothing items? I noticed you had a lot of clothes in there. People donate those just like they bring the food in.
Yes, absolutely.
And then when it gets there, how do you handle bags and bags of clothes? The volunteers pitch in to sort those?
They do. Nikki, who was on the news clip, is the volunteer coordinator for the donations room. She teaches our volunteers how to sort through the donations. We tell them, if you wouldn't wear it, we don't want to put it out, because we want our clients to have nice clothing to go through and take home. So the volunteers help with that, and they hang them on the hangers, and we put them out, and they're displayed. All of them are on racks, and then there's a shoe rack and a personal section to each of the women's, men's, and children's section of our facility.
So they have the same sort of like going through a store setting to choose those. If I need a new coat, there's a coat rack for
Right.
me.
And another really neat thing that they do back there is if something's got a stain or a spill or a button or a zipper doesn't work, then those are actually put into a bin where they're retrieved by another agency, and then nothing goes to the landfill. That agency uses them and passes them along until they actually end up at the coast. And then if there's anything left, those things are made into maybe insulation for a home. So nothing goes to the landfill. It's all used.
It's all recycled in some way or
Yes,
another.
yeah.
Yes,
Continuing
it's all
its life,
used.
tying that on. So we're recording this program in the wintertime. Obviously, you have winter clothes out there. Do you do seasonal set-outs of clothing?
We do. Usually early in the spring, we have a free day where we let them take everything that's of winter or summer, and then we're closed the next day where we change out those winter items for the spring and summer clothing, and then when we open the next day, then all those items are out. But this year, because of our move, at our current facility, all we're going to have available is our winter items.
Okay.
And then once we open up at our new facility, we'll have our summer clothing and spring clothing available.
Well, I know there are times of the year when we hear requests for maybe coats, especially early winter when that first cold spell hits. Did you see that situation again this year as people say, oh, I don't have a quote?
Every year that seems to happen, and so we always put that plea out at the beginning of the cold season that we need clothes and coats, hats and mittens and those types of items that keep people warm. Blankets are also a huge issue that we struggle to keep up with in those winter time.
And people don't think about blankets, but those household items like the blankets and the bedding.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so you're looking at those as options for people to receive. And then, of course, there's the food. We talked about the food being collected. It looked like you had a very organized, presentation of the food.
Yeah, we try to keep things efficient, and so having the volunteers stock those shelves so that they can then be packed into grocery carts for our clients to take out is really important for us.
So walk us through for the viewers how someone comes there and they are in need of food. What's the process they go through? John Q. Public walks in and says, I've been told to come to see you.
Okay. Well, if he's referred or is with a caseworker, then that makes it easier because they're right there and they can answer those questions. Otherwise, what we ask them to bring is proof of their address, proof of their income, and then some proof of who's in their home, so we'll know how many people are in home that need help.
Right.
And if they come in and don't have those items, we go ahead and help them and ask them to bring them in the next time. But we qualify our clients by their income to shop for the Crosslines services. But we also distribute the government food commodities, and the government tells us how to qualify those folks. They can either qualify by their income, and we help the very low to low income people with commodities, but they can also qualify if their whole family is on some type of public assistance. They automatically qualify for that the government food commodities. And that food is just meant to be a supplement to their food budget, to what they spend each month on food. If they need that little extra, they can come in and pick up those government food commodities.
Now, you use the word commodity. Explain for what that means. What type of food items are you getting as a commodity?
It can vary anywhere between canned goods and frozen. Right now we have frozen blueberries and a small ham and a bag of chicken, along with fruit juice and canned vegetables, canned stew. But it's just whatever. I don't know how that all works. It has something to do with the government and how they procure food for that, but they just about a month ahead of time let us know what we're going to get. The food bank in Springfield, Ozarks Food Harvest, is where we get our commodities, and they'll let us know what we're getting the next month for commodities. And sometimes that can be as few as 4 or 5 items, but sometimes we have 16, 18 items. Wow. So it's really hard
to go in cycles.
It is, definitely.
And we're really fortunate that we can supplement that sometimes with some fresh produce that's donated, a lot of baked goods. The grocery stores in town and some of our business partners, restaurants, they supply us with. It's just incredible the things that they will give to us to be able to distribute in the community. So we're able to supplement those cans and that frozen ham or whatever we might have that day with maybe a bunch of bananas or a box of strawberries or some fresh salad items or whatever just has come in that way.
Try to make it a complete meal that way. So
yes.
Nutrition continue to be a concern that not everybody's going to live on peanut butter alone. You need to have those other choices.
And in the springtime and the summertime, we have a Master Gardeners program, and they have a garden on site. it's quite a large garden, and they bring in many pounds of food into the pantry that we're then able to put out to the community.
Grown right by the building and
Yes,
bring it
ma'am.
inside to help them out. And for people who are donating these items, I know you go through different times when you need certain types of things. Right now you're talking about the soup and a lot of crackers with the Super Bowl, but are there other items that you would really like to tell people, these are the types of things you can pick up extra at the grocery store for us?
Right. Well, some of the things that are really important for us are flour and sugar and oil, cooking oil. Those aren't things that people necessarily think. You think, well, when you do canned food dry, let's go get some canned food. But there are a lot of other things that we can use, like those basic cooking necessities. And then canned milk and canned meats are also vital for our programs.
Now you mentioned children earlier. Do you have, if someone needs baby formula and things like that, do you provide those as well?
We sure do. In fact, in the piece you saw a little bit of video of the baby and infant section of the pantry, and there's usually formula and some canned or some jar baby food.
Jars
in
of
there.
baby food
Yeah.
to help people out.
Yeah.
So no matter the age of the family members, you're able to try to meet their needs.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's part of this step, is when someone comes to you, is assessing what are your needs.
Right, right. And we have caseworkers that work in the office that sit down with our clients to help them find out what their needs are, so that we try and meet those needs. And like we mentioned before, if there's something that they're in need of that we don't have access to, we can refer them on to some other agency or organization in the community that can help with that.
Great. Well, I know in the video, and we've mentioned it briefly, that relocation is happening for you. So, and people who have been watching probably have seen the news and say, well, Crossline's moving, so they want me to ask about that. So tell us a little bit about that process, and maybe what led to it, even for people who may not be familiar with it.
Well, we're pretty excited about it. And it came about actually in two different ways. The tornado, through that whole process of helping people get back into their homes and helping them just survive that tornado, is the number of clients that we've seen at Crosslines has just grown exponentially. So that was one reason for the move. But the other reason was the redevelopment of Joe Becker, and the ball team is going to utilize the building that we're currently in as their locker rooms, shower rooms, and offices.
Because you're literally right next to the stadium.
We're right out behind the fence in left field, and so that is going to become their office building. And so then we had been looking for property, just anything that was available. We've looked at, and we've come to the 320 South School address, and there's a 10,000 square foot metal building on that property, and it's 3 acres. So we're getting ready to close on both properties, and then we have an architect right now drawing up plans for us, and then we're going to start renovating and get moved in, and we are really excited about it.
So a bigger facility is going to offer more space, but does it also give you a chance to kind of design it the way you want? Because the story kind of talked about how you've added on throughout the years. Does this let you start from square one with, this is really what we want?
Some of the volunteers that have been with the organization since they started and moved into the facility we're in now, we were at a meeting the other day, and he said, we outgrew that current building day 2. So it's been a process, since 1982, certainly, to come to where we are, and I'm looking forward to that new building and being able to design into it program growth for us to be able to do ministry and just help our community and our clients some more.
Right. As far as a timetable, you mentioned you still have to do the official closing, so you have the legal aspects to take care of first.
Right, we do, and we're hoping that happens by the end of next week, by the 6th of February. And then we've agreed with the city, because they're needing access to the building to get it renovated. Right. And so we're moving out of our current facility in stages. So we're moving out of the donations room where we sort the clothing, and then we have to move out of the shopping area, which is where all the clothing is hung and where they shop for the clothing. So we actually will be suspending our clothing ministry for 3 to 4 weeks, and then we'll reopen up in the new facility. So that will kind of be a strain on our resources, and it will kind of be hard for our clients, but we've already talked to some of the other ministries in town that help with those, and we're going to work in conjunction with them so that all of our clients' needs are met through that process.
So they can pick up the slack when they can't
Right.
come to you for the clothing. And that sounds like it'll time out kind of toward the end of the winter season anyway, so if you have winter clothes in there, hopefully people have met those needs by that time.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
But that move takes a lot of planning, as we heard in the story, that it looked like they were packing things in boxes and labeling them. So.
And just today, the first semi-trailer arrived for us to be able to do some of that temporary storage, and So we're looking forward to getting the work of that done now.
So moving into the new facility, being able to continue this programs that you have, and we've talked about the food and the clothing a lot, but you also have other funding programs. Tell me a little bit about the funding available for like utilities and things that you have.
Well, through the Regional Health and Welfare Association, which is a United Way agency, they contract with Crosslines to distribute the rent and utility assistance for our area. And so we have that available. If there isn't, it's kind of meant as the last resort. If there isn't any other funding in town, then we take applications to help people. And our funding is available to help people stay in their homes or to keep their utilities on. So it's not meant to like help them with their deposits and get moved into a place. It's strictly meant as that safety net to prevent an eviction or a shut off of their utilities.
Is this where like emergencies might come up where somebody suddenly their paycheck has to pay for this medical and they can't pay for the electric or something?
That's exactly the kind of thing that we would help with.
Right. It's meant for those crisis situation for those people who normally meet their basic rent and utilities, but there's been some bump in the road where they've had a crisis, and so then we help them get back up on their feet so then they can continue to pay those bills like they did before.
And there's a process for them to apply and have, I guess, verification, like you mentioned, other things to get those funds.
Yes, there sure is. And we do give preference to those who have children in the home or to those who are lower income, but we also help middle income families because we've all had those crises happen in our home, and so we have that funding available, and it is for just about anybody who's going through a crisis.
You made an interesting comment for the viewers that you mentioned middle income. Sometimes people have an image of a facility that you have to really be down and out to have services, but every day somebody can encounter something. They come to you. There's probably not everybody's labeled as the poor and needy, if you use those terms.
Right. That, like I said, everybody has had a crisis in their life, and that's what we're there for. We're not just meant to sustain the lower income, which we do, but we're also meant to help in those crisis situations. For those emergencies that arise, we are there to help.
And since you're talking about cash, obviously, with utility assistance, do you also accept donations of cash from people in addition to the food and the clothing that people bring into you?
Most definitely. And a lot of times if people call and ask what we're in need of, they say, well, would you like me to go shopping, or do you just want us to send you a check? And we usually tell them that we have, because of our affiliations with different grocery stores and with the food bank in Springfield, we can leverage their donations like they can, it's incredible how we use that funding. The food banks can offer food to us for 12 cents a pound for a lot of different items, even for meat items. So you can't buy meat for 12 cents a pound. So actually those cash donations are really helpful because then we can also make up the difference in those food drives that our community has for us. Like we said, we always get a lot of canned vegetables. That allows us to have that funding that we have donated to purchase what we actually need to fill in those holes.
Right. So those contributions, and then you have special programs. You mentioned earlier children and so forth. The special programs we hear about in school starts. There's always some sort of school drive to help the kids get ready for school. Tell me a little about some of those efforts.
Well, one of the projects that I really appreciate as someone who gets to see people come in every day is when we have a mom who is getting ready to have that baby, and we're able to offer her a layette. It's a baby shower in a basket. It's all managed by volunteers. They collect the items and then they package those into something that's really, really wonderful and helpful for that new mom. And she can pick that up in her 9th month, or she can wait till after the baby's there. And it's just one of those things that I had a client the other day. She said, last time I was pregnant, I came in and I got a package for my baby, and do you still have the program? I was like, yes, we still have the program. So, it's one of those things that we're able to do that is just really extra special.
And when you think of having a newborn, all the things that are involved, not only the clothing, but the diapers, do you offer services with diapers and things like that?
We do. We do have diapers and wipes and feminine products and hygiene kits and all kinds of products that people, they're necessities for everyday life.
And then, of course, going throughout those children as they grow up, then you have different age-appropriate clothing for them to meet.
For sure.
We talked about the clothing. Do you have a increased demand for maybe children's clothing? Do you see any trends along the needs for the types of clothing that people are requesting?
It's harder for us to keep children's clothing in than adults' clothing. From about that 4T up until they get to adult sizes, that would be a place where we would love to have some increase in donations to be able to meet those needs of those kiddos.
So once those kids start going to to school.
Yes.
Those clothes are very important, obviously, to keep them clothed.
And it seems like, our clothing, adults, we change our style, and there's a lot more of those donations. But kids seem to go through their clothes and wear them out before they actually are ready to be passed on. So
Right.
we do struggle to keep up with those kids' clothes.
So if someone has a box of clothes their kids outgrown, they're in a closet, you welcome those donations.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
And tying them together. What about school supplies? I know in the fall, a lot of times there are school supplies. Are you working with the area school districts on those types of donations?
Actually, we are. We have kind of passed the torch on for the school supplies. In the past, we have delivered school supplies to each school in the Joplin, Carl Junction, and Webb City school districts. But now that they have the Bright Futures organizations, they have kind of taken the torch over for that, and we just assist them with volunteers and any donations. But our churches used to be just great about bringing in school supplies. We would either distribute them from Crosslines or take them to the schools. But now we actually assist Bright Futures with that, and we're glad to pass that on. It's an organization in each of the school districts, and they now have that figured out and know what works best for their school district. So it's kind of a bittersweet that we don't do that anymore, but it's one of those things that we were happy to pass on to the school districts.
It sounds like you have a working relationship with those Bright Futures programs. They probably are dealing with many people who may end up coming to you for services.
We do. We refer back and forth to the Bright Futures organizations. We also partner with them. If there's somebody that maybe needs assistance with a light bill and we can't pay the full amount, we'll partner with the Bright Futures organization if there's kiddos in their school district. And so we do a lot of partnering and referring back and forth to those organizations.
And other agencies, I know you're involved with the United Way. Do you have other United Way agencies that work together, in our community that they may have people that you're working together with to help out?
Yes, Lafayette House is a United Way agency, and if we have some woman that comes in and we know there might be a domestic abuse issue there, we try and refer them on to Lafayette House. Children's Haven, if there's some crisis in the home and the kiddos are needing to go somewhere for a couple of nights, we refer to them, and then they refer to us if the family is needing clothing once they get reunited. So we do a lot of referring back and forth and just working together with all the other United Way agencies in town.
Great. Well, people have been watching, they may have questions. I know at the beginning of the show we had a package, but tell them again how to contact you for more information, maybe if they want to help out or they want to contribute.
Well, if you're needing services, for sure, I'd recommend calling first. That way we can let you know what you would need to bring with you so that we can get you processed, through that most expediently. And the number is 417-782-8384. And then our website is also available, and it's crosslinesjoplin.org.
Great. Well, I appreciate both of you coming in today and sharing some information with our viewers and letting people know the work that you're doing for our community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on the station. We'll see you then.